Welcome to BSN Denver Sports. I am Brandon Perna, the NFL vomit bag boy, and today I'll be predicting the Broncos versus Panthers game with deadly accuracy using my patent-pending point system where I evaluate each position group and award the better group a point. For example, if I think the Broncos receivers are better than the Panthers secondary, I will give them a point. At the end of the episode, I tally all of those points to determine which team is going to win. Last season, I was 15-4, just like the Broncos. I'll do my best to finish 7-9 and miss the playoffs this season, disappointing everyone watching, including my father. Well, let's get to it. Panthers and Broncos will kick off the NFL season on Thursday night, making them the only two teams in the NFL that have to play two Thursday night games. The lesson here, don't go to the Super Bowl unless you want your schedule to suck. The other lesson to remember is that if the NFL has no place for you and your well of women is drying up in the real world, you can always go back to Texas A&M. Now let's start with the head coaches in this game. Gary Kubiak versus Riverboat Ron Rivera. For me, this is easy. The last time these two coaches battled on the biggest stage, no, not the main stage at Coachella, the Super Bowl, Gary Kubiak's team looked much more prepared. Going into that game, I gave Ron Rivera a slight advantage because the Panthers had a more balanced team at the time. A balance destroyed by the greatest defense of all time. As a Super Bowl courtesy for his victory, I'm giving Gary Kubiak a full point. Trevor Siemian versus Cameron Newton. This is basically like saying elite quarterback versus an unknown quarterback. Cam Newton had the best season of his career last year and earned league MVP honors. We know who Cam Newton is, a gifted athlete who can run and pass better than anybody in the league. He's built like a linebacker and can shake off would-be tacklers like this guy shakes off any chances of meeting women. Newton has one weakness, Von Miller, but I expect Cameron to play better this week than he did in February. Trevor Siemian is the wild card. You know I'm excited about him, his accurate arm and ability to make good decisions, but until we see him play a full 60 minutes, there's no way in hell I can give him an advantage over Cam Newton today. Full point for Cam. But Trevor, I'm watching and I am yearning for your success. Broncos offensive line versus Panthers front seven. Last season, I thought the Panthers defense was a bit underrated. The offense stole the attention away from a defensive unit that was close to a top fiver in the NFL. Pass rush specialist Jared Allen retired and literally rode off into the sunset, even though there wasn't a sun shining at all. Besides his departure, the Panthers front seven is pretty much the same. The star of the defense is middle linebacker Luke Kuechly, who will tackle anything but a Super Bowl trophy. In fact, the Panthers linebacking core with Shaq Thompson on the strong side and Thomas Davis on the weak side is the glue of this defensive unit. Davis, of course, played in the Super Bowl with an arm that could have fallen off at any time, and they did their job holding C.J. Anderson to 90 yards and less than 4 yards per carry. The Broncos' offensive line is still a giant question mark. In fact, they might be pretty bad for a while. From left to right starting, they've got Russell Okung, Max Garcia, Matt Paradis, Michael Schofield, and Donald Stevenson. Evan Mathis was the only elite player on that unit last season, and he's gone. Okung will be an upgrade at left tackle, and we can only hope Michael Schofield is a better fit at the guard position than he was at tackle. Max Garcia will be battling Carolina's best interior defender in Kawan Short. I believe Garcia will be very good, but this is a big test for him on the opening game of the season. Russell Okung and Charles Johnson are pretty much even on the left side, and Michael Schofield will bump butts with star Lotulelei, who is the weak point on that line, which leaves Coney Ealy and Donald Stevenson, and there I give the advantage to Ealy until we really see what Stevenson can do on the edge. The Panthers have a clear advantage here, and they get the full point. It's a new season, anything can happen, including offensive line improvement for the Broncos. CJ Anderson / Devontae Booker versus Jonathan Stewart / Mike Tolbert and the Thaws. I'm excited to watch the running backs on both teams because I believe the Panthers have exactly what Gary Kubiak wants from his backs. A great fullback who can also carry the ball, and 2 tailbacks in Jonathan Stewart and Fozzie Whitaker that can run well. You could count Cam Newton as a third running back, as he was their leading rusher in the Super Bowl with 45 yards. CJ Anderson looks healthy and ready for the season we all thought he'd have last year. And although Ronnie Hillman played well at times, he was a ghost in the playoffs. Devontae Booker is an upgrade over Hillman as he makes strides every week at the position. I think Anderson and Booker will have a better year than Stewart and the Foz. But right now I'm giving Carolina a slight 0.25 advantage because Mike Tolbert, as the NFL bowling ball, has a resume of success, while the rookie Andy Janovich will make his NFL regular season debut, and we don't know how good he'll be. Broncos receivers and tight ends versus Panthers secondary. The Broncos have a real chance to rack up a ton of fantasy points through the air on Thursday. Start Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thoms, Cody Latimer, and Virgil Green because the Panthers are starting 2 rookie corners and second-round pick James Bradberry and third-round selection Daryl Worley. Marcus Peters of the Kansas City Chiefs proved me wrong last year as a rookie, but I stand by my claim that cornerback is one of the toughest positions to adjust to in the NFL, and I believe one of Carolina's rookies will get scorched on Thursday. Sanders and Thomas are too good not to terrorize their inexperience. This is in addition to the fact that the Panthers lost their only great player in the secondary when Josh Norman left for Washington. Probably because this is the best Panther fans have to offer.
And with me as always,
However, James Bradberry may be the next Aqib Talib. No, he did not shoot himself maybe, but they're the same height at 6'1". The Panther safeties, Trey Boston and Kurt Coleman, are solid, but against elite receivers with noobs up front, I expect DT, Sanders, and Green to make a lot of plays. Green's in for the biggest challenge as Luke Kuechly is the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. I have to give the Broncos a half-point advantage here. It would be a full point, but there's uncertainty surrounding the guy slinging the receivers the rock. Benny Fowler is out, and who's going to step up behind Virgil Green? Questions. Panthers offensive line versus Broncos front 7. Carolina's O-line is better than the Broncos, but the Super Bowl was very telling. Fortunately for the Broncos, Carolina will still deploy Mike Rimmers at right tackle and Michael Orr at left tackle. Von Miller made John Elway look like a genius for cutting Mike Rimmers in 2012 after Miller had a field day with him in the Super Bowl. Orr struggled as well as the edges collapsed all evening in February. The interior is strong with Norwell, Khalil, and Turner. So keep an eye on Sylvester Williams and Darius Kilgo, as inside pressure might be hard to come by for the Broncos. Derek Wolfe and Von Miller should dominate on the right side, and I'm confident Brandon Marshall and Todd Davis will keep the running game contained. I also really like Zaire Anderson, who may fill in for Marshall or Davis at times during the game. The Broncos should win this matchup, and we're going to learn a lot about Jared Crick, as he'll get the start where Malik Jackson once was. He's not Malik, but if Wolfe and Miller and Ware/Ray are playing well, that should ease the pressure on him. Full point here for the Broncos. Panthers wide receivers and tight ends versus the no-fly zone. Aqib Talib will play, and he is not serving that rumored 8-game suspension from the NFL because as of right now, they ain't got jack on him. Which means Talib, Harris, Roby, Ward, and Stewart will still form the best secondary in the NFL. They have to contain Ted Ginn Jr. Done. They have to contain Greg Olsen. Done. They have to contain Kelvin Benjamin. Uh-oh, there's a wrinkle in the story. Benjamin is a dynamic and big 6'5" receiver who is returning to the field after missing all of last season with the torn ACL. It's been reported that Benjamin will play around 35 snaps Thursday as he continues to ease back into feeling like a receiving god. His return will go one of two ways. He'll either explode back onto the scene like Adrian Peterson, or he's going to have a relatively quiet day as most players take a full season to fully bounce back from that injury. It's all about learning to trust that knee again, and I'm not quite sure where Kelvin Benjamin is. But I don't like his chances for a showy return against Talib, Roby, and Harris. And even if he does get past them, Darian Stewart and TJ Ward will knock his ass out. Half point here for the Broncos secondary. Special teams versus special teams. Finally, the matchup we all stay up late at night thinking about. The Panthers get a 7-5 advantage here for 3 reasons. First, Ted Ginn is a pretty good returner, and the Broncos still haven't found their guy at that position. Brandon McManus and Graham Gano are reliable, but McManus has missed a couple kicks this preseason. But mostly, they get the advantage out of spite for the Kuechly cut. Riley Dixon needs a big game as a punter and as the holder for McManus to help me move past this unsettling roster cut. That leaves us with the final score of, a tie. 3 points for each team. That's the football god's way of saying he has no clue who's going to win this game. Just like me. The first week of NFL football is the absolute hardest to predict. The starters aren't at their best because they barely played in the preseason. A handful of them have held out for various reasons during the offseason. There are a lot of rookies on the field, and officials are rusty. Also, flat out weird just happens. We don't know how good this offense for the Broncos will be. My guess is average for week 1. So as long as the defense dominates again, the Broncos can win this one. Honestly, my gut says the Panthers are going to win. I know Manning wasn't the same last year, but after Elway retired and left the Broncos, they lost their first game. And I'm a firm believer that history repeats itself. It's superstition. That's what my gut says. The score says it's too close to call. But out of respect for the defending Super Bowl champions, I picked the Broncos to win this game 24-22. That's right, the Panthers will convert a 2-point play for some reason at some point. But Broncos win. Broncos win the season opener. Thanks for watching the prediction episode here at BSN Denver. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, BSN Denver Sports, and keep coming back to feed your sporting addictions.